One thing you may have noticed in our student grade application code is that we always declare Boolean variables like isPassed at the very top of our code before and outside of our if statement block of code. And this is because of something called variable scope. A variable scope is the block or range of code where a certain variable can be used and referenced to. In this case, we needed to use our variable isPassed in our if condition, and so the scope of isPassed has to contain this whole if statement. And by declaring isPassed outside of any curly braces or condition, we make it available to our whole program. So our whole program is its scope. And remember, we also have to declare variables before we can use them in our code. And that's why our test condition variable is always declared before we use it in our decision making code. But what if we instead declare a variable inside our if statement, inside its curly braces, like this variable double score that keeps track of the student's score? Let's set it equal to 89. The scope of our variable will only be the code inside these curly braces. In fact, a set of curly braces defines a particular variable scope. So inside the scope, we can use this variable scope that we are printing it out. But if we try to refer to that variable outside of the curly braces, it won't allow us. Like if after the last curly braces of our if statement, we try to increase the student score by 5, this will actually cause our computer to generate an error message, and it will look something like this: cannot resolve symbol score. We'll learn more about errors later on. But just know that this will cause an error because our program can't access the variable score outside of its scope. You can think of variable scope as a wall or boundary whose sides are defined by these curly braces. All the variables declared inside these walls, like score in this boundary, can be accessed inside the scope bounds. But once you leave the wall boundary and go outside the curly braces even just a little, these variables can no longer be accessed. So our score variable, which is declared inside the if statement curly braces, has a small scope, but isPassed, which is declared outside of any curly braces, has a bigger scope. So remember this as you write your if statements.